Should we start now?
Yes.
Okay, start. Okay, hello, can everybody hear me? Can I proceed?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Greeting from Jennifer Makija. I'm the chairperson of Taiwan Chamber of Commerce, Mumbai. I think most of you know me, and there are some other newcomers. So just want to say hi to everybody, and it's very good to see everybody joining this webinar, which means that everybody is healthy and safe, which is the happiest thing happening. Okay, so thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar, recent tax amendments and COVID-19 relief measures. Okay, joining us today, we have with us Ms. Anita Basru and Mr. Lucky Ahuja from Nexting, formerly SKP, who will attempt to analyze the recent amendments and key relief measures to analyze the recent amendments and key relief measures announced in light of COVID-19 under direct tax laws and indirect tax law. Okay. Now, Anita Basru. Anita is a practicing chartered accountant with 20 years of experience in the field of direct tax. Anita specializes in representation, wealth tax, and corporate tax related matters. Okay. So now, dear listeners, if you have any questions for us, please leave them in the chat box and we'll be happy to address them. Okay, so I would now like to invite Anita to proceed with the session. Yeah, Anita.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see that you all are safe and listening to the presentation. We are talking about the relief measures that have been provided by the Indian government during this time of COVID. We would all agree that COVID is a totally unprecedented time and is bringing a lot of difficulty to one and all. This is having a global impact, and India is no exception to this. However, along with these difficult times, COVID is also bringing about some opportunities for the businesses. Based on the various articles and talks that are happening globally, it appears that India will surely be one of the preferred investment destinations in times to come. And this is all thanks to the way our Prime Minister has handled the COVID situation. Because of COVID, the world is finding different and innovative ways of doing business, due to which new business models are arising. The manner in which businesses are being done, it is making things more cost effective. Currently, the situation has hampered the growth and GDP globally. Manufacturing also has been impacted, and because of this, the supply chain also gets impacted. There has been a substantial increase in unemployment world over. The currencies as compared to the dollar are weakening, and this is putting a lot of pressure on the borrowers. To add to this, there is a lot of market volatility all over. Can you change the slide, Lucky? We've put down an overview of the impact that COVID is having on the tax collection and the administration here in India. For the first time in 20 years, the direct tax collection in India has reduced. This reduction is to the extent of almost 31% as far as the first quarter is concerned. If you compare the numbers of the first quarter today with the first quarter of the last year, the gross tax collection has come down by 31%. And more so, this reduction is attributable to reduction in the corporate advance tax, which is to the tune of almost 79%. GST collection also has fallen by almost 41% in the first quarter of this financial year. In addition, the other tax collections of the government, be it stamp duty or the other revenues by way of transportation by railway or other public modes of transport, has also come down. In Maharashtra, the stamp duty has dropped by almost 40%. Of course, we must have read in the papers a few days back that in Mumbai, the registrations have begun again, and there is some rise in the stamp duty collection. But overall, the tax collections have been impacted substantially. This is a snapshot of the various relief measures that the government has provided, and these, you will agree, are very significant. The government has provided a 20 lakh crore, that is INR 20 trillion rupees of relief package to combat the COVID situation. This announcement has happened in the month of May. While providing the relief measures, a lot of focus has been given to the MSME segment, and the RBI also has cut down the repo rates. RBI has provided a 6-month moratorium as far as repayment of loans are concerned. So up to 31st of August 2020, the moratorium has been provided. There is an increase in the timelines for collection of export proceeds for exports made up to 31st of July 2020. The increases earlier, the export proceeds were to be collected within 1 year, and now the government has increased it to 15 months. The government has also provided extension in various compliances to be done by the companies, and the due date for linking of Aadhaar and PAN has also extended to 31st of March 2021. The relief measures that the government has provided can be put into 3 buckets. One being the measures which will increase the liquidity of the in the hands of the businessmen. The other would be relaxations in the compliances, and third would be other measures which would improve the picture of India in front of the world. Like I mentioned, MSME is getting a lot of focus, and in providing the relief measures, the government has provided that all receivables by MSME should be released within 45 days. In addition, the government is also providing collateral-free loans to MSMEs. Subordinate debt is also being provided to stressed and NPA MSMEs, and a fund of funds of 500 billion rupees has been established, and this fund is going to be used for infusing in equity of the MSMEs. Some other relief or liquidity measures that the government has taken is it has reduced the withholding tax rate by 25% in case of non-salary payments. It has also provided a waiver in respect of delay on account of filing the income tax return for financial year 1920. However, this is limited to where the amount of tax does not exceed 100,000 rupees. There are extensions that are provided in connection with investments that are required to be made, where people have earned capital gains income by way of sale of certain capital assets. This extension has been provided from 31st of March to 30th of September 2020. Further, to claim certain tax benefits, taxpayers can avail of investments so as to reduce their tax liability. The due date for making these investments in LIC, PPF, medical insurance, donations, etc., are now extended to 31st of July 2020. I mentioned that there were various buckets in which the measures were provided. Coming to the second bucket of relaxation in the compliances, the government has provided a blanket extension in the statutory timelines up to 31st of March 2021. These extensions are both for the taxpayer as well as the tax authorities. This extension of 31st March 2021, however, is not applicable in case of return filing. The government has provided specified dates for filing the returns. In case where transfer pricing is applicable to a taxpayer, the transfer pricing report needs to be filed by 31st of October 2020, and the return in those cases needs to be filed by 30th of November 2020. Where tax audit is not applicable, in those cases, however, there would be, where transfer pricing is not applicable, but tax audit would be applicable. Again, the due date for filing the audit report would be 31st of October, and the due date for filing the tax return would be 30th of November. And in all other cases, the due date for filing the return is again 30th of November. So by and large, all returns now need to be filed by 30th of November as against the three due dates that were otherwise applicable. The due date for filing the revised return or belated return also has been extended to 31st of July 2020. Coming to some more extensions that have been provided, every company, every taxpayer is required to file withholding tax statements for every quarter. For the quarter of the last quarter of financial year 1920, which is ending on 31st of March, the due date has been extended, and the government has provided that in case of salary withholding tax, where the employer is a government, the due date for filing the return is 15th of July, and for issuance of the withholding tax certificate, it is 15th of August. In case of employers other than government, the due date for filing the TDS return is 31st of July, and issuance of certificate is again 15th of August. In case of non-salary returns, the due date to be abided by government employers is 15th of July, and by other payers is 31st of July 2020. Though the date for issuance of certificate in the second category has not been provided by the government, it is advisable to issue the certificates within 15 days, which is the normal timeline. So in case of government payer, the certificate should be issued by 31st of July. And in case of non-government payer, the certificate should be issued by 15th of August 2020. The government has also extended the due date for Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, which is now 31st of December. Now, certain relaxation measures were also provided under the residency rules by the government. Keeping in mind the COVID situation, a lot of non-resident Indians could not leave the country because of the lockdown situation or because of non-availability of flights, etc. And the government has provided the relaxation in the manner that the stay period during this post or unprecedented situation is to be excluded while arriving at the number of days for calculation of the status of the individuals. This relaxation, however, has been provided as of now only for financial year 1920. For 2021, though the lockdown situation continues, the relaxations are yet to be announced. Next, Lucky. Some more relief measures that have been given is in case of a SEZ unit, this is a sunset clause, and the benefit was available to SEZ units if they had begun manufacturing by 31st of March 2020. Because of the situation that we are currently in, this date of 31st of March 2020 is now extended to 30th of September 2020. Recently, of course, about a day or two back, it was in the newspaper that SEZ units are getting in touch with the government asking for a further extension, but we yet have to hear about any further extension. Also, the procedural aspects and the timelines for completion of revenue audits have been extended. As far as taxpayers are concerned, the timelines for filing of the return or for filing of rectification applications or replying to various notices that have been received have been extended to 31st of March 2021. And the tax authorities have got a leeway up to 31st March for processing the tax returns as well as for issuing notices for reopening any matters and for completion of reassessment proceedings. The government had started a special fund called the PM CARE Fund to fight the COVID situation. And this fund is eligible for a 100% deduction under Section 80G. Contribution to this fund also is eligible to be considered as CSR spend, where corporates need to incur these activities. Further, in the budget 2020, government had wanted a re-registration procedure to be followed by the trusts. This timeline also has been extended to 1st of October 2020. The due dates in case of certain transfer pricing matters also have been extended, where the revenue audits in case of transfer pricing matters for 31st March 2017 now is 29th of January 2020. The filing of CBCR for financial year 18-19 and for calendar year 2019 is extended to 31st of March 2021. The filing of the accountant's report, like I mentioned sometime back, is 31st of October 2020. The master file needs to be filed by 30th of November 2020. And again, the Indian subsidiary CBCR reporting for March 20 is now 31st of October 2021. Coming to the last bucket of the measures that we were talking about. Again, I said MSME is very close to the government, and it is a very important sector because it is contributing substantially to the GDP of the nation, and therefore special treatment is being given to MSMEs. Through this 20 lakh crore package that was given by the government, certain measures for MSMEs have been taken. And one important amongst those is to do away with the bifurcation between an investment and a service enterprise. So today, when we want to look at whether an enterprise is a micro, small, or medium enterprise, the distinction between manufacturing and service is no longer there. They have increased the limits substantially so as to have more and more entities under the MSME sector. As we can see, the investment limit for a micro enterprise has been increased to 10 million as against the earlier 2.5 million for a manufacturing unit and 1 million for a service unit. To be considered as a small enterprise, the investment needs to be between 10 million and 100 million. And to be considered as a medium enterprise, the investment has to be between 100 million and 500 million. Similarly, the turnover limits also have been increased, And for a micro enterprise, the turnover limit is 50 million. For a small enterprise, it is between 50 and 500 million. And for a medium enterprise, it is 500 million to 2.5 billion. So a lot more companies can now come under this sector and avail the various benefits that are being provided by the company. Next slide, Lucky. So the government has also provided a e-market linkage to the MSME sector. This is keeping in mind that because of the COVID situation, trade fairs and exhibitions will not be possible. And through this e-market linkage, the sellers and consumers can get together at one place electronically. Also, the insolvency law earlier provided a very small threshold for MSMEs, which was only 100,000 rupees. It was in this limit was initially increased to 1 crore, that is 10 million rupees. And now the government is proposing to come out with a special framework for MSMEs, which is going to be notified soon. There are some other relief measures that have been provided for companies where the employees are below 100 workers and their salaries, their wages are below 15,000 rupees. They have extended the validity for the PF to 31st of October. And in case of the employer contribution and employee contribution, the same has been reduced from 12% to 10% up to for the months of May, June, and July. Coming to some other measures, there were a few other measures that were provided. Like I mentioned, that these are some of the exposures which we can see. The government had given relief to non-resident Indians because of the COVID situation, where they were not able to leave the country. But similar relief has not been given to foreign residents and to foreign companies, because of which there could be a PE exposure for these companies, or there could be a place of effective management if the senior management personnel continue to stay in India. Some other issues are that they have not provided any relief for the late fee in case of the delayed filing of the return. Though the withholding tax rates have been reduced by 25% to give more liquidity to the taxpayers, the advance tax amounts or advance tax percentages have not undergone a change. So the liquidity measure to that extent is very short-lived. Also, some time back, the government had announced that some of the taxpayers take the benefit of lower withholding from the government. And because of the COVID situation, the applications either could not be made, or if made, could not be processed by the government. In such a scenario, the government gave a relief saying that the withholding tax certificate, which was applicable up to 31st of March 2020, would continue up to 30th of June 2020. Today we are in July, and the government has not mentioned any extension in those cases. So that is something that one will have to see how to handle the situation. Lucky, next. Quickly, I thought I'll just cover some of the important tax amendments that were brought out in the budget 2020. One of it being taxation on dividend. Till very recently, dividend was taxed in the hands of the company, and now in budget 2020, the onus has shifted to the taxpayers. Because of this, the tax rate, which initially was in the range of 17.5% to 20%, now would depend on the tax bracket in which the shareholders fall. One relief that has been provided is, it says if dividend has been declared prior to 1st April 2020 and the company has paid dividend distribution tax, the same will not again be taxable in the hands of the shareholder if the dividend is received post 1st of April 2020. Also, there are various companies which receive dividend and also pay dividend. So, to avoid the cascading effect of taxation of dividend, a relief has been provided to the extent that the dividend that is paid by the company will be excluded while arriving at the amount of dividend on which tax is to be paid. Next, Lucky. Some issues that arise in this scenario is since taxation of dividend is quite new to the companies or in the Indian context. As far as resident shareholders are concerned, the tax rate is 10%. But when it comes to non-resident shareholders, a number of these large companies would have non-resident shareholders. So the issue arises as to what is the rate of tax that one needs to consider. Whether the DTAA benefit needs to be given or not to be given. If the DTAA benefit is to be given, one needs to analyze who is the beneficial owner of this dividend. Not to forget, MLI, the multilateral instrument, is now in place from 1st of April 2020. So the impact of multilateral instruments will also need to be looked at before deciding on how the taxes are to be withheld on these dividends. Another important amendment that came in the budget was equalization levy on e-commerce transactions. Equalization levy was first introduced in 2016, and at that time it was introduced on the recipient of service, and it was the recipient who had to bear 2% additional tax on expenses which or payments which were in the nature of advertisement services. Since this equalization levy is not a part of Income Tax Act, there is a confusion as to whether treaty benefit would be available on this additional payment or not. And also, this is not an indirect tax, so SENVAT credit also will not be available on this equalization levy. Taking the equalization levy of 2016 forward, the government on similar lines now has introduced equalization levy on e-commerce transactions, and the levy is at the rate of 2%. This equalization levy is on a transaction between a non-resident e-commerce operator and an Indian party. The Indian party is either an Indian resident or a person using an Indian IP address. So, in this situation, what is happening is that the Indian government is putting the onus on a non-resident to bear the taxes. Also, this equalization levy is exempt under 1050 of the Income Tax Act from financial year 2021. So what the government is saying is, if a particular service is liable to equalization levy, then it will not be subject to withholding tax in India. However, this is from 21-22, that is the next financial year, and the equalization levy has come into play from 1st April 2020. So for financial year 2020, it appears that both equalization levy and income tax would be playing on the same field. I would leave you with all these thoughts, and may I ask Lucky to take over the indirect tax portion.
Hello, Lucky,
Yeah.
before you, I think I forgot to introduce you. So let me introduce Lucky again. Lucky Ahuja Lucky has 12 years of experience in the field of indirect tax advisory, compliances, regulatory, and litigation matters related to goods and services tax, GST, service tax, excise, VAT, custom laws, and foreign trade policy. Lucky has been assisting clients with litigation support from excise and service tax perspective. So welcome, Lucky. Now you can tell.
Thanks, Jennifer, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So just like in income tax, a lot of relief measures or kind of exemptions have been extended. In indirect taxes, also a similar kind of measures ranging from compliances, procedural and administrative measures have been taken. So for ease of reference, we have divided our relief measures in three parts. One is GST, second one is the customs, and the third one is the foreign trade policy. So to start with GST, in GST, the least expected relief measure has already been given by the government, which is the extension of due date. So to start with the GSTR1, which is the monthly return of our output supplies, the due date has not been extended, but the late fee have been waived off. So there is not an extension. There is a waiver of penalties and late fee for that. And the compliances for the period of March 20 to June 20 have been waived off. Subject to that the returns are being filed within prescribed or a revised due date. So for the month of March 20, it is the 10th of July. For April, it is 24th of July. For May, it is 28th of July. And for June, it is 5th of July, 5th of August. So that has been given. Similarly, for GSTR 3B, which is a monthly return for making payment of taxes, that has been completely waived off for the period February 2020 till from July 17 to July 2020. It's completely waived off, subject to condition that all these returns are being filed before 30th September 2020. So, and if it is filed late, then the maximum penalty would be the 500 rupees per return. So that is a kind of a good relief measures government has provided. Now, in terms of kind of a giving relaxation in terms of making payment for GST, for companies having turnover of less than 5 crores, there is no payment of interest if it is paid in certain due dates, that is within 15 days of due dates. And then the reduced rate of 9% from next kind of a slab which has been given. And the 18% rate is to be provided if returns are filed from 1st October, if taxes are paid after 1st October. So that we will discuss in detail in next ensuing slide. This is a kind of a snapshot of the turnover criteria for companies having turnover more than 5 crores and the companies having turnover of less than 5 crores. So if you see that for companies having turnover of more than 5 crores, the due date for February, March, and April 2020 is 4th April, 5th May, and 4th June. So basically, as I mentioned, that it is not an extension of due date, it is just a relaxation for making payment without interest. So up to 4th April for Feb, up to 5th May for March, and up to 4th June for April, there won't be any interest. But if these payments are being made till 24th June, but after the due dates, after the first slab, then 9% per annum interest rate would be applicable. And if it is being paid after 25th June onwards, then the 18% interest would be liable to be paid to the government. So this is what for February, March, and April. But interesting to see that for May, the due date has already been extended to 27 June. But there is no extension of due date for the June, July, and August. So what it means that for these 3 months, from June, July, and August, the normal due dates which is prescribed in law will follow, and straight away 18% interest rate needs to be paid. So this is what the scenario is for companies having turnover of more than 5 crores. Now for companies having turnover less than 5 crores, it has been divided into two parts: the category A state and category B state. So similar extension has been given for those companies as well, where there won't be any interest for the certain period of time, let's say 15 days in between. Then up to 30th September, if it is being paid, then 9% per annum interest would be applicable. And if it is being paid after 1st October onwards, then on a progressive basis, 18% GST interest we need to pay along with taxes. So this is what a kind of a quick snapshot of the relaxation measures have been extended by the government as far as GSTR 3B compliances and the tax payment is concerned. Now moving on to the next part, that we know that due to lockdown, a lot of kind of a compliance measures have been stuck up, which could not be complied. So all this compliance action has been extended till 31st August 2020. So meaning by that, if you are required to file any replies to the show cause notices, or you are required to file any you are required to attend any personal hearing, or you are required to attend any refund claim, you need to file any refund claim, that has been extended till 31st August 2020. So we need to keep in mind that even the refunds which were getting time barred on 31st March is now being extended to 31st August 2020. But the point we need to note that these general extensions are not applicable for the monthly return, any kind of a time of supply issues where we need to pay taxes and all, and the registrations obligation and the e-way bill. So these are the kind of applicable for specific compliances which are there. The major relief which as government has extended is this reconciliation of ITC. We know that from October onwards, October 19 onwards, government mandated that our credit would only be restricted to 110% of the credit which is matching with our 2A. So that compliance has already created a lot of hue and cry. Now, in order to kind of give a relief to the SSEs, this relaxation has been extended, and what government has prescribed that now this 110% matching criteria or a credit eligibility criteria needs to be cumulatively complied for the period February 2020 to August 2020. So meaning by that, you can avail whatever credit you want to avail without bothered about the reconciliation. But while filing the GSTR 3B for the September 2020, you need to have a consolidated reconciliation in place. And if there is an excess credit avail due to non-matching of credit with the 2A, then the interest would require to be paid on that. So again, it's a good relief measure extended by the government. The other relief measure under GST law is that in order to kind of keep running the litigation and due to lockdown, this is not getting held up, the virtual hearing mode has been prescribed, where an opportunity is being given to the SSEs to represent through virtual mode, and the recording of this hearing will be provided to them in a PDF format which they can confirm in certain timeline. So again, it's a good relief measure extended by the government. Similarly, the validity of e-way bill which were generated before 24th day of March and whose validity is kind of expiring after 20th March have been extended till 30th June. And now, in order to boost up the liquidity of the SSEs, at the time of initial lockdown, the government proposed or earmarked around 18,000 crores for the speedy disposal of refund claims. And if the social media is to be believed, around 12,000 crores have already been disbursed to various SSEs, and it believes that more than 1 lakh businesses, including MSMEs, are getting benefited out of it. So this is again a good relief measure. Just like GSTR 3B and 1 has been extended or kind of a provided relief in terms of making payment. The due date for TDS return, ISD return, and non-taxable resident person return has been also extended to 31st August 2020. The another relief measure which is there is towards exports without payment of GST. We know that in order to have an export without payment of GST, we need to obtain an LUT from the GST authority. So, and which is also required to be quoted in our export invoices. So now, considering the lockdown situation, getting an LUT in place for export of goods has been extended till 31st August 2020, but with a condition that the reference of earlier LUT is to be given in all the export invoices. For refund, just like the compliance relief has been given to SSEs, the similar relief has been given to the government officers as well, that wherever they were duty bound to to provide refund in certain due dates and certain time frame, that has also been extended. That if any of the refund processing criteria was falling under 20th between 20th March and 30th August 2020, now they need to pass the order by 31st August 2020 or 15 days from the date of receipt of reply from the registered person. So that is a kind of a relief given to government officer for closing the refund matters. Similarly, a unique feature has been started by the authorities are that now we can file our GSTR 1 and 3B through EVC mode. Earlier, it was required to be filed through DSC mode only, but this is a welcome move by the authorities to enable the functionality of getting this file through EVC mode. Similarly, if you have a nil GSTR 3B return, that can be filed through SMS facility, where the OTP will be given to a registered mobile number and it can be filed. And last, on this part is that the annual return GSTR 9 and GST audit 9C has been for financial year 18-19 has been extended to 30th September. So it may be likely that this date could also be extended, but as of now, it has been extended and it's a welcome move. Now, second part, we have dealt with the custom law measures which has been introduced. So you know that the custom has kind of a working towards a new initiative called Turant Custom, where a lot of measures have been taken and most of the processes are being automated. So all those changes were already there even and kind of a intention of the government was already there even the pre-lockdown period. But that has got a major momentum during lockdown because it was a kind of a need of the hour to make everything online and make it contactless. So in that part, a lot of initiative has been taken under customs law as well. So one of the major changes which custom has introduced that now no more physical copy of out of charge bill of entry or a gate pass would be required. So what used to happen that whenever we want to clear our goods, we need to keep the hard copy of bill of entry and the gate pass in physical form to the custom authorities and get this certified, and then only we were allowed to take our goods out. Now everything has been done online, and the out of charge bill of entry will be given in PDF format to the importer as well as the authorized broker and agent who is there, to make the complete process contactless and paperless. This is a welcome move. Similarly, certain countries are enjoying the benefit of the free trade agreement between different countries. So one of the important feature of that benefit is that you need to obtain a certificate of origin. So now due to lockdown, it was creating a problem in obtaining the physical form, physical certificate. So now the benefit has been extended that the digitally signed copy of unsigned copy would be accepted until the time the bill of entry would be processed provisionally. So that is what a good measure. Now, due to heavy shortage of PPE kit, ventilator, and mask, the government has extended the exemption from custom duties and health cess on all these items. So this is again a welcome move to kind of make good the shortage of these goods in India. Just like we got the benefit of speedy disposal of GST refund, the similar drive was initiated for the drawback disposal. So that was also initiated, and a lot of MSME and the other players got benefited out of it. And another thing which was put on a fast track was that the fixation of brand rate of duty drawback, which is a kind of a prerequisite for getting a drawback refund. The AEO economic operator certificate, which were expired during between 1st March till 30th September, that has been also been extended to 30th September 2020, except in those cases where there was a negative report about a particular SSE who got this certificate. So that has also been extended. And as we discussed that the custom is moving towards faceless, contactless, and paperless customs. So as a pilot project and as a first phase, the Chennai and Bangalore port have started implemented this effective from 8th June 2020. So now, as we discussed that the hard copy document will be done away with, has already been done away with. Now, final let export order copy of shipping bill will be given in PDF format, and this will have a digitally signed and encrypted QR code, which will cover almost all the basic details which is required, like shipping bill, invoice details, packing details, FOB value, and everything. So this is another welcome move to go paperless and contactless from custom perspective. Now, the last piece of this relief measure is that a foreign trade policy. We know that the foreign trade policy and the handbook of procedures is kind of a release for the 5 years block period, which is the earlier block period was 2015 till 2020. This policy was kind of a due for renewal in August, but somewhere due to lockdown, it was not possible, and government has extended this policy to the 31st March 2021. So meaning by that, all those benefits which were given under the erstwhile the policy, which was applicable for 2015 till 2020, now has been extended till 31st March 2021. Similarly, a lot of duty credit scrip which is issued for export of goods and export of services. So what government has given that if the validity of these scripts are getting expired between 1st March 2020 and 30th June 2020, so that has also been extended till 30th September 2020. So all those things have been given, and similarly for SEIS application, the late cut provisions of 5%, 10% for financial year 16, 17 and 17, 18 has also been kind of extended. So it says that the revised date would be the 30th June 2020 for these cases where there is a late cut of 5% or 10%, and then after that, whatever be the criteria is there, according to that the late cut would be initiated on that. And the last piece on the foreign trade policy is that for getting a lot of export benefit under foreign trade policy, it is required to have a registration cum membership certificate from regional authorities. So again, where in these cases it was expired before 31st March 2020. Now it has been extended that the DGFT or the regional authority will not ask to have a valid RCMC, and it has been extended till 30th September 2020. So that's all from the GST custom and foreign trade policy perspective, and now we can kind of move towards the question and answer whatever we have from the participants. Yeah, Jennifer.
Okay, so I believe everybody have heard all the details. And any questions, please, you can just ask now to ask Anita or Lucky, any of you. We have around, we have 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, I think. Yeah?
So there is a question in connection with the withholding tax as to whether 25% reduction in the rate, whether this would be applicable in case of non-residents as well. I think I've understood the question correctly. And if that be the case, then this relief of reduction in rate by 25% is applicable only to residents and not to non-residents. So in case of payments that are being made outside India, foreign remittances, the beneficial lower withholding tax rate will not apply.
Okay, any more questions?
There is one more question as to whether the cash flow would really improve due to reduction in TDS rates, considering that advance tax liability is yet to be discharged. So like I mentioned in our concerns, we have already pointed this out, that though there is a reduction in the withholding tax rate, the advance tax rates have not been changed. So the liquidity measure is a temporary relief, and not kind of a full-fledged foolproof cash flow relief that has been provided.
Any questions for Lucky? Anybody? This is the best chance now you can ask.
There's one more question which says that in case an order is passed on 1st of March 2020 and the tax is to be paid between 22nd March and 30th of June, would it attract reduced rate of interest? Yes, it would attract the reduced rate of interest. The rate of interest instead of 12% per annum is 9% per annum. So during the period 22nd March to 30th of June, this reduced rate would apply.
Yeah, one question which I got it is that whether the SEIS benefits have been extended for financial year 2021 as well. So the answer is that as of now, government has not come out with any extension for the service export from India scheme for financial year 2021. They have specified that they will come back separately on this part later on at appropriate moment. So that benefit has not been extended till date. We need to wait and watch what kind of a stand government takes on service export from India scheme.
There's another question as to what proof is required for PM CARE donation since the payment is made by check. When you make the payment of this donation, when you make the donation, you will get a receipt, and that receipt will give details of the necessary payment, and that is what is required. In the return that you file, the registration number and some other information like the PAN, etc., would be asked, which will be available in the receipt, and basis that the relief will be available. One point to be noted is since the donation for financial year 1920 also is extended, you need to be very careful in mentioning for which year the donation is made so that you can take the relief under that required year. So there's going to be an overlap from 1st of April to 30th of June. You may be able to use the investment either for financial year 1920 or 2021. So you need to be very clear where you want to use the benefit.
Another question for IDT is that what about the late fee penalty which has already been deposited with the government? So what will happen to those since the relaxation has been extended? So the government has recently clarified that if we have already deposited the late fee, which has now been waived off, so they will make sure that it is recredited to the electronic credit ledger. So wherever companies have already paid the late fee, it would be recredited to their GST ledgers, and they can see it while logging into their system. So it might take some time, but government has specified that they will be giving it back.
Any more questions? Yeah, welcome to ask now. The time is ticking. Any questions? You can just bring it up to us.
There are a couple of questions for you.
There is one question on TCS, which is going to be charged from 1st October 2020 on sales. As of now, there is no update. Based on the notification, this has been postponed to 1st of October. Post 1st October, there is no update. So we'll have to wait and watch as to what the government has to say. There is one question in connection with ECB return filing date. So there is nothing that has been provided by the government as yet. So it appears that there is no extension in the ECB filing date, and the interest penalty could apply. But what we can do is we can once recheck and come back to you. You can leave your email ID and we can respond.
Hi, Jennifer. I think we can conclude now.
Okay. All right. So, this brings us to the end of today's session. So once again, thank you to all our participants and the panel members for your time. We hope that you have benefits from this today's webinar, and I hope you have a great amount of insights from the session. And those who still have questions, you can email to our organizers, thinknext@nexting.com. They should respond to you through the email very fast, as soon as they can. And thank you to our organizer Nexting as well to help us, Taiwan Chamber, and organize such a nice, wonderful webinar. Thank you to you. Thanks to you, Uma, also. Yeah. So thank you once again, everybody, and I hope you enjoy and benefit from the seminar. So stay free and take care. Hope to see you all very soon. Okay, I was just talking to them today. If there's any more text for which can benefit to our Taiwan manufacturers or companies, we'll organize another webinar soon. So just stay tuned with us. Okay. Okay. Bye bye.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks all. Take care. Have a great day. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.